Welcome back to ABC General Hospital, Spoilers Channel. Today we will learn about the devastating moment when Britt Westbourne's carefully constructed walls finally crumbled, and the dark truth she's been hiding came spilling out in the most heartbreaking way imaginable. What we witnessed wasn't just a near-death experience, it was the complete unraveling of a woman who's been carrying the weight of her father's sins while trying to protect the man she loves from a threat neither of them fully understood until now. The water off Spoon Island is merciless in winter. The temperature drops to levels that can stop a heart within minutes. And the currents are strong enough to pull even experienced swimmers under without warning. Britt Westbourne knew this when she went under. Part of her wondered in those final moments of consciousness, before the cold became everything, if this was how it would end for her. The daughter of Caesar Faison, one of Port Charles's most notorious villains, drowning in the same waters where her father had orchestrated so much chaos and destruction. There's a poetry to it that wouldn't have been lost on her, even as the water filled her lungs and her vision started to fade to black. Jason Morgan didn't hesitate. The moment he saw her go under, something primal took over. He dove into those freezing waters without a second thought, without weighing the risks or considering his own safety. This is who Jason is at his core, a man who saves people, who protects the ones he cares about no matter what the cost. His hands found her in the darkness beneath the waves, her body already going slack, her fight against the water fading. He pulled her up, breaking through the surface with a gasp, holding her unconscious form against his chest as he fought his way back to shore. The cabin near the water's edge became their sanctuary. Jason kicked the door open, carrying Britt's limp body inside, her lips already turning blue, her skin ice cold to the touch. Every second mattered now. He laid her down near the fireplace and started a fire with trembling hands, not from the cold but from the fear that he might be too late. The wet clothes had to come off. They were leaching what little warmth remained from her body, turning her into a frozen statue. Jason worked quickly, methodically, stripping away the soaked fabric with the clinical efficiency of someone who's seen combat injuries and knows that modesty takes a backseat to survival. He wrapped her in every blanket he could find, pulling her close to his own body, using his warmth to fight back the hypothermia that threatened to claim her. His hands rubbed her arms, her back, her legs, trying to stimulate circulation, trying to convince her body to start generating heat again. The fire roared to life, casting dancing shadows across the cabin walls, and Jason held her tighter, whispering things he probably wouldn't admit to saying later. "Come on, Britt. Stay with me. Don't you dare leave me like this. I need you to fight." When her eyes finally opened, when awareness slowly crept back into her gaze, the first thing she saw was Jason's face hovering over hers, filled with relief and something deeper, something that looked an awful lot like the love she'd been trying to convince herself didn't exist anymore. Her body still shook with violent tremors, but her mind was clearing enough to realize what had happened. She'd almost died. Jason had saved her. And now she was lying in his arms, protected by the man she'd spent months pushing away with lies and manufactured cruelty. The words came before she could stop them. "I've been lying to you," Britt whispered, her voice raw and broken. "All along. About everything." The confession tore through her like broken glass, painful and sharp and somehow cleansing. She'd carried these secrets for so long, protected them so fiercely, and now they were spilling out, because near death has a way of stripping away pretense and leaving only truth behind. Caesar Faison's shadow is long and dark, reaching from beyond death to strangle his daughter's chance at happiness. The man was a monster when he walked the earth, an international criminal, a terrorist, a man who collected enemies like some people collect stamps. His obsession with Anna Devane and his willingness to destroy anyone who got in his way made him one of General Hospital's most dangerous villains for decades. But even monsters have final wishes, unfinished business that doesn't die when their hearts stop beating. Britt explained it all through chattering teeth, her words tumbling over each other in a desperate rush to finally tell someone what she's been living through. Her father left behind a project, something so dangerous and so valuable that powerful people, people with resources and connections, and absolutely no moral boundaries, decided Britt was going to finish it. They didn't ask. They didn't give her a choice. They simply made it clear what would happen if she refused. The threats started subtle at first, veiled warnings that could almost be dismissed as paranoia, but they escalated quickly. People around her started dying. Accidents that weren't accidents. Warnings written in blood. Someone approached her months ago with documents, research plans that Faison had left incomplete. Whatever this project is, it's something that could change the balance of power in the criminal underworld. Maybe it's a weapon. Maybe it's information that could bring down governments or expose secrets that powerful people have killed to keep hidden. Maybe it's a formula for something that shouldn't exist, or access to something that should have stayed locked away. Britt wouldn't tell Jason all the details, whether because she couldn't, or because she was still trying to protect him from knowing too much. Even now. What she did tell him was that she'd been working on it in secret, making progress while pretending her life was normal, while dating Jason and going to work at the hospital and acting like everything was fine. Every moment they spent together had been shadowed by this threat. Every kiss had been tainted by the knowledge that loving him made him a target. Every time she looked at him, she saw a potential casualty of her father's legacy. So she pushed him away. It's what Britt does when she's scared she gets mean, builds walls, drives people off before they can get close enough to get hurt. Every fight they had about Carly was manufactured. Every accusation she threw at him about not being over his past was a deflection. She picked fights over nothing because it was easier than admitting the truth. She made him think she didn't want him anymore because if he hated her, if he walked away on his own, then the people threatening her couldn't use him against her. But Jason Morgan isn't the kind of man who gives up easily, and Britt Westbourne's attempts to protect him by breaking his heart just made him more determined to figure out what was really going on. He knew something was wrong. He could feel it in the way she looked at him when she thought he wasn't paying attention, in the way her voice cracked slightly when she said cruel things that didn't match the person he knew she was underneath all the defensive armor. Now he knows everything, and the look on his face as she finished telling him the truth was equal parts rage and determination. "You have to tell me who they are," he demanded, his voice low and dangerous. The voice he uses when he's about to do something violent and probably illegal. "Name's Britt. I need names." The episode left us hanging there, Britt wrapped in blankets by the fire. Finally unburdened of her secrets, but still very much trapped by circumstances beyond her control. Jason sitting beside her, his mind already working through the problem, calculating risks, and planning his next moves. Somewhere out there in Port Charles, the people who've been pulling Britt's strings have no idea that their carefully maintained leverage just evaporated. They have no idea that Jason Morgan now knows everything and is coming for them with the full force of his particular set of skills. The sins of the father have become the chains that bind the daughter, and it's one of the cruelest ironies in Britt Westbourne's complicated life. She didn't choose to be Cesar Faison's child. She didn't ask for his DNA or his enemies or his unfinished business, but genetics don't care about fairness or choice. She carries his blood, and in the eyes of certain dangerous people, that makes her responsible for completing what he started. It makes her a tool to be used, a resource to be exploited, a problem to be eliminated if she stops being useful. But they made a critical miscalculation when they decided to threaten Britt Westbourne and pull her into this nightmare. They underestimated her intelligence, her strength, her ability to survive even when drowning in water and secrets. And more importantly, they made the catastrophic mistake of underestimating what Jason Morgan will do when someone he loves is in danger. He's not just going to accept this situation. He's not going to let powerful people hide in shadows while they terrorize Britt. He's coming for them, and when Jason Morgan decides to end a threat, he doesn't stop until the job is finished.